8th Standard, Prose, Living Amicably. As you know, India is a federal, constitutional, parliamentary democracy and is pluralistic, multiple religions, multilingual, multiple languages, and multi-ethnic, multiple cultures. This is what makes us what we are. What does this mean for each one of us? A great visionary gives us a clue. Apart from being a notable scientist and engineer, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam served as the 11th President of India from 2002 to 2007. People loved and respected him so much during his tenure as President that he was popularly known as the People's President. Due to his achievements in the field of science, Dr. Kalam had received the Bharat Ratna award before he assumed the highest office in the country. In his autobiography, Wings of Fire, he traces the various phases of his life as a son, student, scientist, and leader. Dr. Kalam says, "I was born into a middle-class family in the island town of Rameshwaram. My father, Jainullabuddin, had neither much formal education nor wealth. Despite these disadvantages, he possessed great innate wisdom and a true generosity of spirit. He had an ideal helpmate in my mother Ashyama. My parents were widely regarded as an ideal couple. I was one of their children. We lived in our ancestral house, which was built in the middle of the 19th century. It was a large concrete house made of limestone and brick at the Mosque Street in Rameshwaram. My austere father used to avoid all inessential comforts and luxuries. However, I would say mine was very secure childhood, both materially and emotionally. There was a very old mosque in our locality where my father used to take me for evening prayers. When my father came out of the mosque after the prayers, people of different religions would be sitting outside waiting for him. Many of them offered bowls of water to my father, who would dip his fingertips in them and say a prayer. This water was then carried home for invalids. I also remember people visiting our home to offer thanks after being cured.
He lived on the Mosque Street in Rameshwaram, a city famous for its Shiva temple. Every evening, on my way home from the mosque, I would linger near the temple. I always felt like a stranger here, as the temple goers stared suspiciously at me. They probably wondered what a Muslim boy was doing in front of a temple. The truth was that I loved to listen to the rhythmic chanting of the mantras, though I never understood a word. There was a strange magic in them. Of course, something else led me there. My best friend, Ramanath Shastri, was the son of the head priest. He sat beside his father at this hour, reciting hymns. Ram would steal a smiling glance at me from time to time. At school, Ram and I always sat together on the first bench of our classroom. We were like brothers. However, being a Hindu priest's son, he wore a sacred thread, while my white cap marked me as a Muslim. One day, when we were in the 5th standard, a new teacher came to our class. He looked strict. He went around the class, tapping his cane on his palm, and stopped before us. "You, the one in the white cap, how dare you sit beside the temple priest's son?" he shouted. "Go sit on the last bench." I felt hurt. With tears in my eyes, I picked up my books and shifted to the last row. Ram and I wept together silently after school. We thought we would not be allowed to be friends anymore. When I reached home that day, my father looked at me and asked, "Were you crying? What's wrong, son?" I recounted the whole incident to my father, while Ram also told his family the same story. Early the next morning, Ram came running to our house and said, "Father has asked you to come to our house immediately." I was terrified. I thought I was in for some more trouble. We hurried back to Ram's house. My heart skipped a beat when I saw our new teacher standing there. "In the light of our discussion, apologize to Kalam here," said Ram's father with a stern face. I could not believe what I had just heard. The head priest was asking the teacher to apologize to me. No child is less than another in God's eyes. It is your duty as a teacher to help students live in harmony, in spite of the differences in their background. "You can no longer teach in this school," he said. Our teacher immediately asked me to forgive him. He hugged me and said, "I am sorry, Kalam. I have learnt an important lesson in life today." Ram's father saw that the teacher sincerely regretted his behavior and permitted him to continue teaching. From that day on, Ram and I sat together proudly on the front bench. We have
My science teacher, Sivasubramania Iyer, though an orthodox Brahmin with a very conservative wife, was something of a rebel. He did his best to break social barriers so that people from varying backgrounds mingled easily. One day, the science teacher invited me to his home for a meal. His wife was horrified at the idea of a Muslim boy being invited to dine in her ritually pure kitchen. Sivasubramania Iyer was not perturbed, nor did he get angry with his wife. Instead, he served me with his own hands and sat down beside me to eat his meal. His wife watched us behind the kitchen door. I wondered whether she had observed any difference in the way I ate rice, drank water, or cleaned the floor after the meal. When I was leaving his house, Sivasubramania Iyer invited me to join him for dinner again the next weekend. Observing my hesitation, he told me not to get upset. Such problems have to be confronted, he said. When I visited his house the next week, Sivasubramania Iyer's wife took me inside her kitchen and served me food with her own hands. For my higher studies, I had to leave Rameshwaram and study at the district headquarters at Ramanathapuram. My father took me to the mosque and recited a prayer from the Quran. He said, "This island may have housed your body, but not your soul. Your soul dwells in the house of tomorrow, which none of us can visit, even in our dreams. May God bless you, my child." Despite my homesickness, I was determined to come to terms with the new environment because I knew my father had invested great hopes in my success. My father visualized me as a collector in the making, and I thought it was my duty to realize my father's dream, although I desperately missed the familiarity, security, and comfort of Rameshwaram. I tried hard to control my thoughts and my mind to influence my destiny.